Imagine moving into your dream home, only to find out that it holds a dark and terrifying secret. The walls whisper, objects move by themselves, and you start feeling watched even when you're alone. The worst part? You're not the first ones to feel its grip. What would you do if your new home turned into a nightmare so horrifying that you couldn't escape, no matter how hard you tried? Before we unseal this dark chapter, a disclaimer is in order. I have researched this topic extensively, from witness accounts and articles to documentaries on the subject. And the truth is this: there is no physical proof of the Amityville type of house, nor is there any empirical evidence that such a thing truly existed. However, those terrifying accounts are so compelling, so chillingly consistent, that they have woven themselves into the fabric of folklore. The story is what matters here. In 1975, George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, moved into what appeared to be their dream home in Amityville, New York. The house was large and beautiful, situated at 112 Ocean Avenue, a quiet suburb not far from the shores of Lake Ronkonkoma. But there was something unsettling about it, something that didn't seem right. No one knew it yet, but the Lutz family was about to be engulfed in a terrifying experience that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The house was just a year removed from one of the most horrific crimes to have ever taken place in the small town. On the night of November 13, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. had brutally murdered his entire family while they slept. His mother, father, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters were all shot and killed in their beds. The crime was savage and senseless, leaving the community in shock. DeFeo claimed that voices told him to commit the murders, but his trial suggested it was more than just a deranged mind at work. Despite the bloody history, George and Kathy were unaware of the dark history when they decided to buy the house. They were simply looking for a new beginning, a place to raise their family. But from the moment they entered the home, something was off. At first, the Lutz family experienced what seemed like normal inconveniences: strange noises, occasional cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. But it didn't take long for these unsettling occurrences to escalate. On the very first night, Kathy was lying in bed, unable to sleep. She heard a strange noise, a low guttural sound as if someone or something was breathing right beside her. She turned to George, but he was sound asleep, unaware of the eerie presence that seemed to fill the room. The noises persisted. The breathing grew louder, closer. She couldn't explain it. It wasn't a natural sound, but something far more sinister. George began to feel it too. He would wake up in the middle of the night, covered in sweat, his heart racing, feeling as though something was pressing against him, suffocating him. The house felt heavy, like it was closing in on them, and it wasn't long before the family started noticing the temperature fluctuations. The temperature in the house would plummet, even on the coldest nights. In certain areas in the house, especially the basement and certain rooms upstairs, became unbearably cold. Kathy would try to warm herself by the fireplace, but no matter how high the flames rose, the coldness wouldn't leave. But the strange happenings were just the beginning. The Lutz children began to report disturbing visions. Their toys would move on their own, sliding across the floor as if pushed by invisible hands. They described seeing a red-eyed pig lurking in the house, a creature that no one had seen before, but one that seemed to haunt the children's dreams. As days turned to weeks, things began to grow worse. The family felt a growing sense of dread, as if the house itself were alive, watching them. George began to grow distant, consumed by a feeling of anger and unease. Kathy became paranoid, often waking in the middle of the night to find her husband absent, only to discover he was somewhere else in the house. Seemingly lost in thought, as if under the influence of some invisible force, with the paranormal activity becoming unbearable, George and Kathy sought help from Father Mancuso, a local priest who had a reputation for dealing with supernatural events. Father Mancuso had heard about the DeFeo murders, but he had no idea how deeply the house was entrenched in evil. When Father Mancuso entered the house, he immediately felt something was wrong. As he tried to bless the rooms, he heard a voice, low and chilling, warning him to get out. The priest ignored the warning and proceeded with his work. But as he made his way through the house, he felt something physically strike him. Something seen and powerful pushed him with such force that it sent him stumbling backward. Terrified and shaken, Father Mancuso fled the house, convinced that the evil within its walls was too strong for even a man of God to fight. The paranormal events didn't stop after the priest's visit. In fact, they grew more intense. Kathy was tormented by vivid nightmares, waking up in a cold sweat every night, screaming in fear. George grew more irritable and distant, snapping at his family, consumed by an unseen force that seemed to control him. Family's behavior became erratic. The Lutz children began to fight more, their moods swinging wildly. One night, as they were sitting in the living room, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. When they went to investigate, they found all the furniture had been upturned, despite the fact that no one had been in the room. A mirror, once hanging above the fireplace, shattered into pieces for no apparent reason. The atmosphere grew tense as the house seemed to respond to their fear. George, feeling like a stranger in his own skin, wandered the house late at night, almost in a trance. He began hearing voices that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The whispering grew louder each night, like an army of unseen entities trying to take control. Then came the final straw. One night after returning from a long day at work, George was inexplicably drawn to the basement. He descended the steps, feeling an undeniable pull toward the far corner of the room. The lights flickered, and for a moment, everything went dark. When the lights returned, George saw something he could never explain. A shadowy figure, standing in the corner. When he reached for it, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving behind a nauseating stench of decay. The Lutz family could no longer bear the torment. The house had taken its toll on them, both physically and mentally. George was no longer the man Kathy had married. The house had drained him, consumed him, and left him a shell of himself. Kathy couldn't bear to watch her family fall apart. The children were terrified, and every night seemed like a battle for survival. After 28 days, the family fled the house in the dead of night. They left behind everything they had worked so hard for, abandoning their possessions and the home they had once hoped would bring them peace. But as they drove away, something lingered in the unshakable feeling that the house wasn't done with them yet. It was as if the house had left a piece of itself with them, a curse they couldn't outrun. In the years that followed, the story of the Amityville Horror spread like wildfire. Books, movies, and documentaries were made, each telling a version of the Lutz family's terrifying experience. But despite the numerous accounts and eyewitness testimonies, the question remains: was it all real? Or was it just an elaborate hoax designed to capitalize on a tragedy? Some skeptics claim the Lutz family fabricated the entire story, using the horrific murders of the DeFeo family as a backdrop for their own gain. Others believe the house was truly cursed, its malevolent energy still lingering long after the Lutzes had fled. The truth remains shrouded in mystery, but one thing is certain: the house at 112 Ocean Avenue still stands. Its dark history is etched into the walls, its reputation as one of the most haunted houses in America solidified. The Lutz family never returned, and the house abandoned by them has since changed hands many times. But perhaps the most chilling thought of all is that, while the Lutz family left, the house never truly let them go. No matter where they went, no matter where they ran, the dark presence of the Amityville Horror would follow them. And perhaps, just perhaps, the house is waiting for the next family to step inside, ready to claim new victims, ready to keep its terrible secret forever sealed. The story of the Amityville Horror is one that continues to fascinate and terrify, a chilling reminder of the dark forces that might exist just beyond our comprehension. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the idea of a house that traps its residents in an endless nightmare is one that will haunt us forever.